Now that you made a cool 2D style illustration from 3D geometry in Cinema 4D Lite, it's time to now prepare it for use inside of After Effects. And since we're going to be compositing our Game Boy element in an After Effects composition with some continually rasterized elements like text and shape layers, we're going to want to make sure our edges on our Game Boy are going to be just as sharp. So to do this, we're going to first go into interactive render region just so we can see what's going on. I'm actually going to zoom in down on these shadows and these textures right here because you can really tell how chunky and jagged they are right now. So let's go into our render settings, and I'm going to focus on anti-aliasing here. So by default, the anti-aliasing is set to geometry, which means that our object silhouette is smooth, but again, the textures and shadows have a chunky edge. So to give this a more refined, sharp edge, we're going to change the anti-aliasing up to the best quality we can do. And you'll see that that immediately smooths out our shadows and all of our textures. So the next thing I want to focus on is the filter. Now typically you'd want to use the Gauss or animation filter due to how it softens the edges of your objects so when they animate they don't flicker. But for use in animations with a lot of vector 2D art with very sharp edges, we're going to want to render out using a filter that allows for less blurring. Now personally, I like to use the sync filter, and I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but the difference between the animation kind of softens our edges and the sync really helps sharpen it out. I really encourage you to test this out on your own to see the difference. It's quite noticeable. So using a sharper filter like sync really allows your 3D work to blend into all of your vector art that you may use inside of After Effects. Undo my camera move here by holding Shift Command Z and zoom back to my original position. I'm just going to save that out with that render settings change. All of my anti-aliasing is looking good. Now we can jump into After Effects. So here we are in After Effects, and I already have a composition here with just the words game on coming and just a nice little wipe. What I'm going to do is just drag and drop my Cinema 4D file right underneath my shape layer and my text layer here. Again, both vector continually rasterized layers. And you're going to see that by default, when I click on the Cineware layer, we have all these options. We can actually still see our viewport or our work plane grid here. And we still have some chunky quality here, even though we up the quality inside of Cinema 4D Lite. So what we actually need to do is just one important step when we're ready to render outside of After Effects, and that is going into our Cineware layer and making sure we go into our renderer settings and change the renderer from software, which is just a preview mode. It tries to replicate what it looks like inside of your actual Cinema 4D viewport. And we're going to change this to standard final. And this is going to be what your animation is going to look like when it's fully rendered from Cinema 4D Lite. So with that one change, we can now RAM preview our animation and see what we have. So by ensuring our edges are nice and sharp inside of Cinema 4D Lite, we can make sure that our 3D elements look right at home in an After Effects composition filled with vector art. And by using Cineware, we can easily composite our 3D elements with cell shading from Cinema 4D into our After Effects composition without ever needing to render out of Cinema 4D.